Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, on Instagram Movies TV Mad X, and on TikTok. Mick isn't perfect because he isn't, even though I love myself. But anyway, we've got a full roster to speak about today. I want to talk about the great John Glover who played Lionel Luther in Smallville and how he said he detested his return to Smallville. That ain't breaking news to me because I hated his return to Smallville as well, and I love Lionel Luther and I love John Glover. We're going to talk about the rumours after that, about the Penguin series being sold to Netflix, and then we're going to finish off talking about another movie shelved by Mr. Zaslav and WB. Coyote versus Acme, which actually was an interesting movie I was excited to see because I'm a big Looney Tunes fan. But first of all, let's talk about the revelation from John Glover, who played Lionel Luther in Smallville, one of my favourite television shows of all time because it's a pre-Superman story. I love Superman. So John Glover played Lionel Luther for 7 seasons initially in Smallville. He played Lex Luthor's father. He's not from the comics. They made him up. It was a great premise. Lionel Luther ended up being one of the great television villains until his son killed him in the middle of season 7 in an episode called Descent, my favourite episode of Smallville ever. When we asked the showrunners, they told us that he's dead. He ain't coming back. Here's a problem. Alfred Gough and Miles Miller created Smallville and ran it impeccably for 7 seasons, but then it was taken over by their understudies, and that's where the problems for Smallville truly began. Because even though I think seasons 8 till 10 were solid, those 3 seasons had a lot of issues, and one of them was the return of Lionel Luther as an Elseworld multiversal version of the character, not the one we knew and loved for 7 seasons. So he was a blatant villain, and he didn't really have any redeeming qualities. It was well played by John Glover because he's a theatrical actor. He's the real deal. He was amazing. I'm not saying that version of Lionel Luther was bad, but it was without its complexities. Now, John Glover, on the Michael Rosenbaum podcast Inside of You, has said he hated it. He wasn't happy with it because he was promised they were going to do something amazing. And clearly, they didn't. But here's the thing. My issue is never really been with, the Elseworld Lionel Luther, which isn't without its good context, if you like. It was what they did to Lionel in the finale. I have a lot of issues with the Smallville finale, which I've gone over with a fine-tooth comb. But it was the moment they made him Darkseid Lionel, when he gave away his heart, his soul, so Lex Luthor could return from the dead. Another ridiculous situation. They kill Lex off, they bring him back in a cloned body. But he clearly has all of the original Lex's memories, but he isn't the original Lex. So it's damn freaking stupid. And then they wipe his mind. Ridiculous. So there's lots of problematic issues with the series finale of Smallville, although many, many fans love it to pieces. I don't. I enjoy it in its places, but yeah. Anyway, so we had Darkseid Lionel, and it was ridiculous. It was terrible. These days, it would have been a meme. So I don't blame John Glover for being unhappy about his Smallville return. They clearly made him a lot of false promises, and in the end, it wasn't how it was painted, and you can understand why John was disappointed, and I was also very disappointed with the way he returned. But that's the difference between Smallville with Gough and Miller, the people who created it and ran it impeccably for 7 seasons, and life without Gough and Miller in the final 3 seasons. Ultimately, even Gough and Miller didn't really like the series finale and found it confusing, and they had better plans for that finale, and I think Lorna Lang definitely was part of that series finale, but Christian refused to come back because the fans came after her. The crazy shippers came after her, and that was a very big problem for her. So she didn't come back. I think she could have come back if she wanted to. She should have been there. She wasn't there. It was a great shame. But yeah, Lionel Luther's return was terrible, but the original 7-season run was outstanding. Now let's talk about the Penguin series from Matt Reeves' Batman Cinematic Universe. Obviously, it's not just a cinematic universe because Penguin will star Colin Farrell, reprising his role as Oswald Cobblepot once again, which is a great version of the character in the Batman movie. So they're making a really, really excellent streaming show. I'm hearing lots of great things about the Penguin. But information has reached me that Zaslav is negotiating to sell it to Netflix. So for me, this is not a big deal. I don't get Max. I spoke about this the other day. I do get Netflix. It's the only one I'm actually allowed to watch without any, without any VPN. So anything that comes onto Netflix, I'm glad that WB and Disney are selling a lot of their good stuff to Netflix. It really helps me. And I was disappointed that Doctor Who went to D+ instead of Netflix, even though, yeah, I know how to get hold of BBC content. That's not the point. It's better if you can do things on the level for everyone concerned, so, the money's going the right place where they should go, because I like giving back to my industry. So, yes, it looks like David Zaslav is stirring the pot again, and he's looking to sell Penguin to Netflix. I don't really think this really affects anyone, as most people have a Netflix subscription. I think it's excellent for people living abroad who don't have access to HBO Max, but that is the information that is reaching me, that they are trying to move Penguin from Max to Netflix. It will be very, very interesting if that happens, but we had this discussion yesterday. I suppose in a way it's a repetitive discussion, but it's a very relevant discussion, isn't it? Because if they're willing to sell stuff like, the old DC animated shows to Netflix, right? If they're willing to sell, and we don't know if this is official confirmation, we don't know if this is happening with Penguin, it's a rumour. It's something that is being whispered in my ear, and we'll see if it happens. I'm also hearing rumours that Creature Commandos will go the same way over to Netflix. So we'll have to wait and see. But again, basically, we go back to selling Sniders to Netflix. Now, the difference is between the Penguin thing, it's something that's really happening. The difference between Creature Commandos, it's something that's physically happening. And the Snyderverse right now is dead. But I do think there's a scenario of, Snyderverse being restored on Netflix, especially with the evidence that we're getting. Because, let me tell you something, and I will make this a more relevant discussion about WB's financial plight when we talk about, Coyote versus Acme and how they're shelving that movie. But WB are broke. They're penniless. I think they're just about more broke than Disney, and Disney are pretty broke. And people don't believe that Disney are broke because of all the money they used to make. Disney are broke. These studios are broke because they embraced the streaming model instead of keeping faith with good quality entertainment and art released in cinemas. The movie theatre, as you Americans call it. The big screen. That's where the money is, but it's got to be quality movies or it don't work. These companies are broke, but WB is absolutely broke. And this is why they're selling off a lot of the HBO Max content, original content, over to Netflix, because Netflix will pay good money and it's worth their while, and they need every penny they can get. All these studios thought they could hijack the Netflix model and have stuff exclusively on their streaming services, and they thought, yeah, this is a winner. In the end, there'll be no movie theatres, there'll be no cinema, pay-per-view as I discussed yesterday, and we're going to be quids in. Well, they're not going to be quids in. It doesn't work. Because making a product for a streaming service that only has profitability with subscribers doesn't really make you a lot of money. As I say, if they were able to pattern a pay-per-view service and get away with it, they would have done it and they would have been quids in. Because a movie release is pay-per-view on the big screen, in the theatre, in the cinema. Because you're paying per view. That's where the money is. But unless you do that on streaming, there's no money in streaming. But Netflix can make money via streaming because they're a commodity. Everyone knows who they are. People subscribe. And Netflix can be seen in mostly every country around the world. That's been another big issue for Disney Plus and Max. I mean, Disney Plus and Max have been around now, for 2 or 3 years, and it's still not available here in Cyprus, which is ridiculous. As I say, Netflix is available here in Cyprus, but initially Netflix wasn't here in Cyprus, and it was very frustrating trying to get Netflix. But finally we got there because of all these stupid copyright rules and all these, different laws. It's outrageous, but it isn't fair if you want to watch certain things because they took away everything from Netflix. Anyway, and so WB are broke. WB will now do anything to make money, including selling Sniders to Netflix. This is a very interesting situation. It is not a dead situation. I think Snyder has still liked posts on Vero's talking about this. It's clear there's a huge opportunity here. I also discussed this yesterday because I think the WB are a very desperate company and they will do anything to make money because they have to, because they're broke. I don't think they're broke because of anything that Zaslav has done. I've told you many a times, David Zaslav is the troubleshooter, the problem solver to solve this economic problem. David Zaslav didn't create this problem. AT&T did. In truth, it's their fault. They were a bunch of no-marks. They were like Mr. Bean going into the hospital in the Mr. Bean movie and pretending he's a fucking surgeon. That's who and what AT&T are. They came in, bought WB, pretended they knew how to run a huge entertainment conglomerate, but they didn't. And they ran it into the ground. And when it was time to launch HBO Max, they had no lead. They had no Mandalorian. They had no nothing. So that's why they gave Zack Snyder 70 million so they could release the Snyder Cut on Max, which was basically something great for the fans. And we got to see a 4-hour epic and awesome Justice League movie. We will never see the likes of that again. Good luck making a movie like that again. Good luck, James Gunn, making a Justice League movie. I'm sure you can make a great Justice League movie, but it ain't going to be on the level of the Snyder Cut. Let's be honest about that. And so WB are broke. They're desperate. So when people ask me, is there a possibility of selling Snyderverse to Netflix? Absolutely. There's no question about that this is a huge, huge possibility because there is money in it. There is money, because all WB need Netflix to do is pay the right amount of money to pay to make it. Pay to make it, pay them. And WB would be quite willing to do this. Now, the thing is, they'll be divided. The studio will be divided because there's still people at WB Pictures that hate Snyder and would do anything to rob him of this opportunity. But here's the thing. The people at WB Pictures who betrayed Zack and stabbed him in the back are not running anything anymore. They're there, they still got their finger on the chicken switch, but it's David Zaslav's decision. Because as I said earlier, he's here as a troubleshooter, a problem solver to sort out the problems that AT&T created. That's why Stanky of AT&T went to Zaslav, cap in hand, to save them from the calamity that they caused. This is the truth of the WB situation. Zaslav will do any deal to save this sinking cesspit that was once the great Warner Brothers. It's not the great Warner Brothers anymore. And here's more confirmation that it's not the great Warner Brothers anymore, because guess what? Yes, It's another year, it's another movie being shelved by Mr. David Zaslav, and this time it's Coyote versus Acme starring John Cena. Now, I think this would have been an awesome movie. I think it was a live-action animated movie. You know, I love Looney Tunes. I grew up on Bugs and Daffy, and I was really, really excited about this film. I'm quite sure many people weren't that hyped for this film or even knew that it existed. But this is, you know, to make a film, to make television, I want to make you understand what goes into making it. It's not about glamour. It's not about red carpets. It's not about fame. It's not about fortune. You have to prep. You have to cast. You have to build the sets. You have to, you know, especially with this film, you know, a lot of animation, lots of CG, lots of hard work to make moving pictures happen, right? When I do a play, it's simple. We rehearse, we stand there, and we perform. But to create moving pictures on a screen, everyone, is fucking hard work. And for you to do that hard work, it's bad enough that people shoot down your art as soon as they see it, because they've all got their agendas these days. But when someone says, yeah, we're shelving that, I mean, that's a gut wrench. I mean, that's a kick in the balls. That's outrageous. As I say, it's such hard work to create moving pictures. And when someone takes your work and says, nah, no one's ever going to see it, you are disgusted, because we are not in this industry to make money. Yes, we want to be paid, of course. But at the end of the day, you want your stuff viewed, right? I'm fortunate enough to do a video every day, a couple of videos. I mean, they don't get a great number of views, but I know at least 10 people are going to watch these videos, which is nothing, but at least I know someone's coming in to watch these videos, right? So I feel a little bit appreciated. Getting 2 or 3 likes makes me feel a little bit appreciated, right? I always get 1 to 3 likes. Again, it's not a lot. I'm a very small channel, but I'm grateful for that, because let me tell you something. Every like, every comment gives me a shot in the arm. It gives everyone a shot in the arm. It makes me feel that I matter, like I have a little bit of relevance. So it's great. So keep that going, because you're doing my mental health a lot of good. But yeah, to shelve somebody's work is a disgrace. I'm going to be clear, I can't really level the hate at Zaslav directly, because Zaslav is in a bind. He's doing whatever he has to do to keep the bills getting paid, to keep the central heating on. It's not his fault AT&T destroyed this company, because they didn't know what they were doing. As I said earlier, my analogy of them being Mr. Bean in the Bean movie, pretending they're surgeons. That's exactly what they were. This is not Zaslav's fault. But these are crazy, insane decisions. And what director, what respectable director in their right minds is going to come and work for WB and then be told, we're shelving your movie? Now, let's be clear. To Zaslav, this is an easy movie to shelve because there wasn't much hype for it and he could kind of get away with it. But it sends out a very bad message. The other day, Christopher Nolan said he'd be happy to work with WB again, and the feud is over, because obviously his nemesis, Jason Kilar, isn't there anymore. If Kilar was still there, it would still be on, and he wouldn't be even saying anything positive about WB. But if you're Christopher Nolan, whatever you say publicly, when you see somebody's film, somebody's art, somebody's hard work being shelved, how do you feel about that? Are you confident? Do you really want to come back and work for this company that is penniless and will make any decision to save its soul? Now, I'm not suggesting that if Christopher Nolan made a film with WB, they'd even consider shelving it. Of course, that would be insane, and they wouldn't do that. There will be a lot of money to be made. I'm quite confident that this movie being shelved, Coyote versus Acme, is going to get a tax write-off. And people say, why not just release it, blah, blah, blah. Well, because there's more money. This film, I think Zaslav sees this film as a write-off. He said he thinks it's not going to make enough money for them to market it. So basically he's saying, let's get a tax write-off. Let's make some money. They can make a lot of money. They can get their money back. Because what happens with a tax write-off, it evaluates how much you spent on a movie and how much you were taxed when you paid for that movie. And, you know, it basically gives you your money back, then some. So it's a very good way of doing things. But they're a business. They're not going to be doing that with every single movie, obviously. They did well with Barbie. But I don't think they've had many good surefire hits apart from Barbie this year. Let's look at it. Shazam! Fury of the Gods, flop. The Flash, flop. Blue Beetle, flop. So Barbie's their only big winner. So in a lot of ways, they didn't make a profit from Barbie because that money is helping them, you know, pay for flops like the 3 DC movies we've seen this year. Do you get it now? So they're not making any money. They're broke. Because it doesn't matter how much money you made on Barbie. Yes, that movie made a profit. But because you're already on a loss because of your year's released movies, you're not ahead. You're just about breaking even. So they basically look at, you know, Coyote versus Acme or whatever it's damn well called, and they say, right, we can't have another one like this, right? It's not going to work out for us. So we're going to get a tax write-off, and this is what they're doing. And I don't believe this is Zaslav's fault. But it's not a good look for the studio. But this is where we are. Did you ever think a few years ago when Disney were making a lot of money and they were releasing animated feature after animated feature, Pixar was going well, Marvel was going well, The Force Awakens made $2 billion. Did you ever see a situation where an MCU movie out right now would just about be fresh on Rotten Tomatoes? And we're talking about just about, and it'll go rotten again anyway. And God knows how much money that film's going to make. Not very much. I think we all know it's not going to get anywhere near $1 billion. I'm talking about the Marvels, which we reviewed on this channel the other day. Check it out on my playlist. But it's on my Hollywood playlist, if I remember rightly. But anyway, yeah, could you imagine that Disney would be in this situation? Now, WB have been like, you know, like a digger, digging for oil, but never finding it. They've been like that at least since 2012, 2013. The DCEU has never made the money they wanted it to make, right? And I know there's a debate about MOS and BVS, whether they're hits or not, but those films never made the money the studio needed them to make and wanted them to make. Let's be absolutely clear about that for whatever reason. So WB have been struggling for many years. That's why they're in a worse position than Disney. But don't you worry, Disney are catching up with them. The industry is on its knees, and just because the strikes are over, it doesn't mean anything. And there's another issue with the strikes being over. Now they're going to rush content out, right? Rush to make it, and it won't. These films and television shows won't be as good as they could have been because they're rushing them out. But there's also a lot of delays right now. So it's all very, very interesting out there. But one film not being delayed is Superman Legacy, which apparently will start shooting in March of 2024, which is next year. Yesterday we discussed potential casting. Get ready for the casting news because it's going to come thick and fast when James Gunn is ready. We discussed that yesterday. So they start shooting in March. This is a film that will not be delayed. If anything can save WB, it's Superman Legacy. And wouldn't it be just like a kind of a repeat of history itself? Because in 1978, Superman saved WB then and saved Hollywood and gave us a more positive outlook on movies. Instead of anti-heroes, we had a pure-hearted hero. And it was a different way. It was basically giving people an escape, showing people a better world, a more positive world, just like a Star Wars New Hope. So it changed everything. If Superman Legacy is a success, this will give, WB the reputation it needs. And then more decent directors will want to work with James Gunn. If the movie flops, WB are absolutely finished. They have decided to go with James Gunn in this direction. There's No turning back now. Unless this fails. If this fails, they'll have to turn back and they'll have to think of something else. And I don't know what else they could think of, because I think it's clear to a lot of people that superheroes may not make the money they used to. I can't remember the last time we had $1 billion CBM. Maybe someone in the comments can remind me, because I can't remember it. Was it Joker? Was it a Marvel movie? I know Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness made just under $1 billion, but I can't remember the last time a CBM made $1 billion. So if James Gunn can make a success out of this universe that he's building up, then he's done a very good job. And we've discussed this before, that the man can make good films. The man can make a success of DC Universe. He can do that. There's no question about that. But it's not without its challenges. He has made a few enemies from certain DC fans, Snyderverse fans and stands. We know that. But that may not be something that creates much of a problem for him. But it is exciting to wait and see what we get with Superman Legacy. But it's a huge moment for Zaslav, because Zaslav has gambled everything on James Gunn. Zaslav absolutely believes in James Gunn. So will his belief end in tears, or will it be successful? Well, we're going to have to wait till 2025 to find out. And, I don't think we're going to get much else being made in DC Universe until that movie is released, which we've also discussed before. So listen, this is not a power play. Zaslav believes in the decisions he's making. In deciding to, reboot Harry Potter, which I think is a dumb idea, and taking it to Max and pulling it away from cinemas, I think this is a really bad idea. But these are the decisions he's making. But I bet you $1 billion, right? You ain't got $1 billion, most of you, but I bet you some money that Harry Potter streaming reboot will be sold straight to Netflix as well. I think this is the real reason he's moving it to streaming. So he's got something valuable to sell off. As I say, this is how deeply broke and penniless WB are. Whatever they say publicly, no matter how confident they are, they're in big trouble. And those strikes have created even more trouble for them. Because now they've got to get content out for 2024. Because when you're a penniless, broke company, you've got to have stuff to sell. But they created the strikes in the first place, as Christopher Nolan said, and as I also mentioned yesterday, that they've been running their business in the wrong way, and this is why they're in such a desperate scramble. There's very few great storytellers left in Hollywood. There's very few pioneers left in Hollywood, and this is one of many reasons why they're in trouble. You need people who love stories, who want to take people on a journey, who want to educate people with facts but entertain them at the same time. And Hollywood doesn't have many of these people. Interestingly enough, James Gunn does believe in escapism. I believe that. He's identified the fact that we've had bad movies for the past maybe 20 years or so, maybe more. So it's not like he doesn't know there's a problem. The problem is he's from the generation of Hollywood that have destroyed it, that haven't been interested in giving kids the escape mentally they need. And that's on him and his generation of filmmakers, too busy pushing narratives and ideologies instead of making entertainment, instead of doing their goddamn job. Because at the end of the day, you can commentate on issues, right? You can represent, you can include. No one's telling you not to do that, but you've also got to entertain people while you're doing it. It's what Hollywood always used to do. But, they're not the company, they're not the outfit. Tinseltown isn't the place it used to be. Hollywood, me growing up, for me, Hollywood used to be a magical place. And I looked up to directors and actors of both genders. They were gods to me. These people out there today are not gods. Maybe that's because of the advent of social media and the shit these people talk on social media. I'm quite sure that social media hasn't helped Hollywood because it's taken away that mysterious quality of people, gods you couldn't reach, and now they can be reached. And that is one of the many problems of entertainment today.